Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Ultima 6, The False Prophet. In our previous several episodes, we've been busy gathering gold and getting equipment for our party to be ready to delve into the dungeons of Britannia. And we'll get to that in just a moment, but first, there's a couple things we need to go ahead and take care of. In our previous episode, we picked up a new character, Santre, and while in the process of doing that, we forgot something. Bear with me a moment. If you remember, Dupre was holding onto an extra pair of swamp boots. We're going to go ahead and move that to Santre and equip those. And as you may also remember, we have more gold than we can possibly ever need, and we don't need to sell off old items. So we're going to go ahead and drop these boots here. Now, Santre, like many other characters who can join the party, I forgot to mention this in our last episode, is once again based on a real-life person. Now, in this case, I do not have the actual real-life name of the person, but what is known is that in the same regional area that Richard Garriott, Lord British, was in the SCA, there was a character named Santre on the rolls there. So it's very likely that once again, Richard Garriott has immortalized one of his friends in a video game. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to our adventure. Now that we're fully equipped, we are ready to get on with it. We're leaving the town of Trinsic, and we're going to be heading to the northeast to head towards the Drylands. Now, I had mentioned stopping at Buccaneer's Den to pick up some lockpicks, but we're going to go ahead and hold off on that. We don't need any lockpicks for the next part of our adventure, so we're going to go ahead and just get on with the actual adventure itself. I think it's been a little too long, and we're going to go ahead and get to that. Now, looking at our Ultima 6 map, the Drylands are around 60 degrees or so east. They're between 60 and 70 degrees east. We are currently at about 25 degrees east, so we'll have a little bit of ways to go. And then we'll be going ahead and starting our trip into our first dungeon. Now, when I say dungeon, I think that requires a little bit of definition. In the Ultima series, dungeons have always been caverns, caves, crypts, prisons, any kind of underground structure that was once used for some purpose, but has been overrun with monsters and other foul beasts, and also filled with their treasures. And so they become places where adventurers can go to test their mettle, improve their abilities, and their fortunes. Okay, 45 degrees east. We're almost on the way. Ever since the time of Ultima 1, when Mundane the Wizard first arose, the dungeons have become filled with countless monsters. They become the breeding grounds of evil. And from Ultima 4 onwards, there were 8 primary main dungeons. Those dungeons were Deceit, Covetous, Wrong, Despise, Shame, Destard, Hythloth, and the Great Stygian Abyss. And each of these dungeons stood opposite to one of the great virtues of Britannia, such as honesty, sacrifice, justice, and so on, opposite the virtue, its shrine, and its town. 8 virtues, 8 shrines, 8 dungeons of anti-virtue. In Ultima 4, the Avatar was required to go into every single one of these 8 dungeons in order to complete his quest. Between the two games, the Great Council of Wizards sealed the dungeons to preserve the peace of the land, but the Avatar was forced to unseal them in order to travel between the world of Britannia and the underworld. Now in Ultima 6, they are still open, and the Avatar is going to have to go back into some of them in order to complete his quest. We've already found out that we're going to have to go into at least 3. We're going to have to go into the dungeon Shame, the dungeon Wrong, and the dungeon Destard. Now, we're not quite ready for that. The dungeon Destard, for example, we know is filled with dragons, and we're not even close to being ready for dragons. We're not going to be ready for that for quite some time. But in the meantime, there are some other underground places in the land of Britannia that we can visit. Not every underground cave is one of the classical dungeons. There are just regular caves, pits, and, well, ant mounds. And that's where we're heading right now. Now, this isn't really the first dungeon that we've explored in this series. When we went into the sewers of Britain several episodes back in order to meet the thief Phoenix, technically that's considered a dungeon. But this is really the first one that we've gone into with the purpose of fighting the monsters there and completing a quest. Let's check our coordinates here. We're at 15 degrees north, 65 degrees east. And according to my Ultima 6 map here, yeah, we're right in the middle. This river leads right up into the drylands. We're to the east of Sinvral's house, so we're going to go ahead and stop here and get out of our boat. Let's go ahead and remember that we are at 15 degrees north, 66 degrees east, in case we get lost and need to make our way back to our ship. Once again, everyone remember where we parked. We're back in the desert. Now, we don't want to go too far north because we do not want to end up back at the Shrine of Sacrifice. As you may remember, that did not go very well for us. But instead, we're looking for an opening into the elusive Ant Mound. And if I remember correctly, there was one somewhere along here. Ah, well, there's an ant. Let's begin our combat. And as you can see, the ants are not terribly hard to kill one at a time, but I'm sure that once we're in their mound, there will be very many of them. And there it is. There's the entrance. Now, if you look at our status here, a gargoyle, it showed up that we saw a gargoyle was lightly wounded. Let's not go any farther north. We're just going to go right into the hole. Shamino says, "This is the Ant Mound. Welcome to our first dungeon." Now, as in our previous game, we went ahead and gave some of the torches to Leona. We're going to unequip her shield and use one of her torches so we can see around ourselves. Let's get to it. Now, the Ant Mound is a natural cave, or I shouldn't say natural, it was built by these ants. But unlike the man-made caves of huge stone, this is just made right out of the earth. And we have to find our way through it and try to find out where this piece of the map was. As you may remember, one of the shipmates of the crew of Captain Hawkins named Hawknose. He went to these drylands to kill Sinvral, and well, he ended up getting dragged off by the ants. We have to try to find his body, or find the map, or find something. Now, before we get too much further into here, there is one thing I'd like to do. I'd like Dupre and Shamino to be in the front. Yolo should stay to the rear. And Leona and Leodin... Okay, that's fine. They can all be in the front. That's fine. I'd like them to all attack as many enemies as possible to gain experience. I haven't actually started battle yet, but... right now I'm just letting the Avatar kill anyone. But as we get into stronger enemies, we'll go ahead and start letting the whole party take part. Okay, here's a hole leading down to level 2. You can continue exploring here. So far we haven't run into too much resistance, although now it looks like we're starting to run into it. Let's begin combat. And here looks like another hole leading down to level 3. About this time, I'm sure that our two seafaring party members, Leona and Leodon, are probably wondering what they've gotten themselves into joining into this quest. They're at home in the wide open air of the ocean waters, and suddenly they find themselves deep underground in some kind of pit of doom. It's probably a little claustrophobic. Ah, here we go, another hole. This leads down to the 4th level. Good thing we gave Santre those swamp boots, otherwise we'd have some trouble there. Uh-oh, we're getting into an open area here with a lot more ants. Now, Leona seems to be hanging back for some reason, and I'm not sure why. I'm going to set her to flank. And I'm going to have Dupre go as assault. He's going to go after your strongest... We'll see if that makes a difference. Chamino hears something more to the east. Let's keep going. Another large chamber. This looks like it might be important. Oh, a lot of ants. We seem to be in a much more sensitive area of the nest because there's a lot more ants out here. And Leona's heading off by herself, so I don't think I like that flanking maneuver that she's doing. I'm just going to set her to the front lines as well, like she was before. We'll worry about the intricacies of combat, how we have our combat set up a little later once we're not in quite such a hazardous area. There's an ant on what looks like a platform or a throne of some kind. That could be the queen. But it's not coming and attacking us, so let's avoid it. We'll only attack that which is coming after us directly. That, as in Ultima 4, you know, we want to attack dangerous enemies that are attacking us, but ones that aren't any threat to us, we shouldn't worry about too much. The virtuous thing is to, you know, let enemies that aren't directly attacking us alone. Well, here's a body. Let's take a look at it. I find a gem, 5 gold coins, a mug, wine, and part of a map. We found our 3rd map piece. Excellent. Let's quickly move that into the proper bag here. Excellent. Now, we don't need this wine or this mug, but we'll go ahead and take that gold. And a gem. Yola will hold on to that gem for us. Fantastic. It looks like we've managed to complete our quest. That was quicker than I expected it to be. Well done, everyone. Now, being a little more serious here, one thing I should point out to people playing this game. Let me come over here to the Ant Queen. The reason I didn't attack the Ant Queen, apart from it not making sense from a story point of view, the Avatar being virtuous, it does actually affect your Karma score if you attack the Ant Queen. You're more than welcome to attack any of the ants in the Ant Mound. Doing so gets you experience, and it's fine. But if you kill the Ant Queen, you will lose Karma. It will harm your score in terms of your following the virtues. And that's why I avoided. That's something I know from my previous playthroughs of the Ultima series. We're going to go ahead and attack some of these other ants here really quickly, in order to just get a little more experience for our party, so we can start thinking about leveling up. Up, and I think one of my party members actually killed the Ant Queen. Oh well. I should have been a little more careful with where my party was doing, you know. I should have warned them about that. Let's go ahead and use another torch. And we'll start making our way back to the surface. Looks like the assault setting does seem to get your people up there fighting hard, and I'd like to have Leodon take part in some of that action. Let's take a look at people's experience levels here. The Avatar's got quite a bit at 1300. Dupre could certainly do with more experience. And Shamino. Honestly, they all could. If we're going to be going into the more difficult dungeons, we're going to need to get these guys beefed up. The Avatar can't carry the entire load. I'll make room for the rest of the party to run out. Let's get them all a little closer myself. There we go. As you can see from their hit points, even Dupre, who's been up on the front lines here the whole time, is doing pretty well. These ants, I'm sure over time, fighting enough of them would eventually hurt the party, but even at level 2 and 3, like most of our folks are, they're doing pretty well. You know, this is not a huge threat. I'm just letting the rest of the party do all the work here in terms of the combat. All right, we're back up on level 3. We'll go ahead and take a slightly longer way back to the ladder. We'll go up into this larger chamber and see what we can find. Go ahead and grab this gold nugget. Leona can grab these extra torches. At least some of them. by delving directly down to where the map was, we skipped a lot of this extra stuff that could benefit the party later, such as a lockpick. Looks like the ants are collecting a whole bunch of stuff that they found. My goodness. What's this? Oh, a black pearl. That's a magical reagent. Let's search some of these bodies. See if any of them actually have anything on them. Looks like the bodies have already been picked clean. And all the items are around them. Still, it can't hurt to search just in case. Alright, I'm going to leave the party over here for a moment. Have everybody get behind the avatar. Let's see what we can find. Oh, someone's attacking us. There's honestly not all that much that's of use. There's a swamp boot there. There's a few different magical reagents we can find. But at this point in the game, with everything that we've already found, most of the stuff we can leave behind. If we were to have come here earlier in the game, I could see us having some need of some of this equipment. I believe the reagents are in the sorry, they're in the first bag, aren't they? Go ahead and move these mushrooms into the bag, and we'll do the same with the black pearl. We'll move these extra swamp boots to the prey, as well as the torches. And we'll cash in these gold nuggets a little bit later next time we're in Britain. Alright, let's go ahead and head back where we were going. Oh, there's a loot. If Dupre had lost his loot, we could get an extra one here. Looks like a music lover was done in by these ants as well. And there's that ladder leading up to the second level. Just make sure there's nothing around the edges of this room here. It looks like there's not. Alright, so we're back up on level 2. And now the way back to level 1 was very, very straightforward. Just down and to the left a little bit. But before we do that, let's explore. There's a much larger chamber around here that we can look in. Once again, Leona's going to have to use a torch. Looks like there's not much to find here. Alright, we'll go ahead and head our way back up to the first level here. These are just dead ends that we don't have anything useful to us. Looks like the ants kept most of the stuff that we'd consider valuable down on the lower levels. Perhaps to discourage adventurers such as ourselves from invading for the purposes of finding them. Ah, looks like there's some more nightshade mushrooms. Those are always useful. Reagents tend to be expensive, and although we have a lot of gold, there's a plant. We can move the plants around. If nothing else, this is a very useful area to find mushrooms in, if we're ever short on nightshade. It looks like the Ant Mounds are the place to go for that. Perhaps these ants are one of those species of ants that cultivate funguses and moss and other plants for their own food sources. Okay, the way out should be up here. And there's the ladder leading upwards. Now it looks like YOLO finally got a kill in. And there's the exit. And we're back on the surface. Let's head south, get away from that shrine before we attract the attention of those gargoyles. And we'll make our way back to our ship. Now if we take a look at everybody's hit points, let's just look through. Yeah, nobody was too badly hurt. Leodon is the worst off, but still has 79 hit points. Out of a maximum of 90, that's not too bad. So well done, team. There's one other thing that I wanted to mention that I hadn't mentioned in the previous episode. Shamino has one of them. I'm going to give this to the avatar really quickly. YOLO has several. And Leodon also has one, and what these are is invisibility rings. What an invisibility ring does, as it says, you know, on the tin, it turns the user invisible, and what that means is, a person wearing an invisibility ring isn't going to be seen by any monsters. He cannot be attacked by monsters. Makes him a very convenient item to have when exploring, say, a dangerous ant mound. The problem with invisibility rings is that while you're wearing them, they don't last forever. They will eventually disappear. Just like the Ring of Power in Lord of the Rings, it'll eventually betray you and slip off or vanish. I'm going to save these rings. We're not going to use them right now, but there are some dungeons much later in the game, towards the end of the game, that are very hazardous. We're going to have these rings in reserve for when that time comes. There's Sinvral's hut. And there's our ship. Now, there's something we didn't ask him about the last time that we were here, which might be a little bit of a spoiler. But if you remember, YOLO is carrying the Gargoyle Book of Prophecies. It would make sense to ask a Gargoyle about that book. Let's go ahead and see what he says. The Book of Prophecies says that the false prophet will come to destroy the Gargoyle race. Only the sacrifice of the false prophet will save us. Ah, that sheds a little bit of light on the story. So the Gargoyles are convinced that the false prophet, I'm guessing that must mean me, because they tried to sacrifice me, is going to come and destroy them, and only by sacrificing me can they avert this. That's thorny. No wonder they hate me. No wonder they are consider me their enemy. And it looks like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because, well, they're attacking us here in Britannia means that we're going to have to attack them back. It's asking about the sacrifice. Sacrifice means many things in my language. You should seek out a Gargoyle scholar to learn more. Travel to the other side of the world, and you should be able to find one. You can go down through Hythloth to get to the realm of the Gargoyles. Wow. Hythloth is one of the most dangerous dungeons in all of Britannia, of those 8 dungeons I mentioned previously. Probably only second to the Great Stygian Abyss. So that's not something we're going to be doing anytime soon. That'd be interesting, though, eventually going to the realm of the Gargoyles, although I'm not certain if a Gargoyle scholar would be willing to speak with me, considering that I am their enemy. May your persistence and precision lead to success, my lord. Interesting. Sheds a little bit of light as to, why these creatures are attacking me. It looks like it's some sort of religious conflict. They think that I'm their mortal enemy, and it's prophesied to destroy them, so they must destroy me. It's a shame, because, you can't always argue with fanaticism. Alright, while we're here in our ship, let's quickly run to Buccaneer's Den. Let's go ahead and get those lockpicks like we meant to earlier. We're at 10 degrees north, 58 east. And we need to head to 30 east and 30 south. We'll have to sail a bit south to get away from the Britannian coastline here. Okay, now we're at 0 degrees north, so now we can head due south. If we are going to go ahead and eventually visit the Gargoyle lands, it would make sense to get this stone tablet, this silver tablet that seems to have Gargoyle language on it. That's going to help us translate this book. It would help to know exactly what we're walking into. So it looks like we're definitely on the right track with tracking down these map pieces. Okay, here's the island that Buccaneer's Den is located on. Let's sail around to the east side of the island so we can go to the docks. Here we go. Welcome back to Buccaneer's Den. And as you may remember, we need to go speak to, I believe his name was Budo, the leader of the Thieves Guild. Now, YOLO usually is our person who carries lockpicks, so let's go ahead and give him some gold. I'm going to move about 500 coins to his into his possession. And it costs 5 gold for each lockpick. Theoretically, we could buy 100. I don't think we're going to need 100. Let's buy 20. I don't even know if he can carry that many. Oh, that's a good start. We can get 20. Let's see if we can get another 20. There we go. So 40 lockpicks make that 41. Actually, is going to be plenty, and YOLO still has some encumbrance left, so we'll go ahead and move these gold back to Chaminade. Excellent. We're in pretty good shape. Let's start heading back towards Britain. We'll go ahead and get the party healed up at Lord British's castle. Alright, back on the ocean, we need to start heading towards 0-0 and Lord British's castle. Once again, we are at approximately 30-30. We're at 28-36. So we need to head west. Now while we're sailing, let's just take a moment and look at this. The Avatar is not bad in terms of dexterity and intelligence, but he could use more strength. And remember, the halberd depends on a combination of strength and dexterity. To praise a melee fighter, again, we should probably keep increasing his strength. Same with Chaminade at this point. YOLO's dexterity is almost maxed out. He could use more strength. Same goes for Leona and Leodin. Everyone but Santre could really use strength. Now, as he's going to be, I believe, using a halberd as well. Yes, he needs dexterity. That just gives us an idea of what we want to be looking for in terms of how we want to improve our party's stats. Almost everyone can do with more strength, except for Santre. Alright, I believe we're sailing into Brittany Bay again. There's the docks, yes. Perfect. As the sun goes down in the western sky here, let's quickly run up to Lord British's castle, hopefully before he goes to bed, and we will get ourselves healed up. Let's avoid the museum here. Hopefully Lord British hasn't gone to sleep yet. He might have retired to his chambers, but I'm sure he'll be amenable to a evening's conversation with the Avatar. And indeed, we just missed him. He just ran into his bed. Looks like 9 o'clock is Lord British's bedtime. Alright. We'll do our old trick once again of casting Dispel Magic. Unfortunately, wasting some reagents. We're wasting some garlic and ginseng in that cause. There we go. Okay, let's get ourselves into an open spot here. So the entire party, like I said, needs to get more strength. As you may remember, the virtue of strength, the attribute of strength, is raised, by the Shrine of Valor. Let's go to our quest bag. And use the Orb of the Moons. 2 spaces to the east and 1 space to the north. That should take us directly to the shrine. Oh, look, there's Sherry. Alright, let's go ahead and talk to the shrine. And And we'll see if anybody's ready to have their levels raised and gain more strength. Thy deeds serve as an example to all. Do you wish to meditate at this altar? Yes, we do. Remember that the mantra of honor is Ra. Sorry, valor is Ra. The avatar is not ready to level up. Let's try to pray. Unfortunately, no. Let's see if Shamano can do it. Unfortunately, again, not. As for YOLO, YOLO gained a level and strength. Leona's not quite there. Leodon, again, is not quite there. Okay, so everybody, except for YOLO, nobody was quite ready to raise their level. Now, as for Santre, remember, we don't want to raise his strength. We want to raise his dexterity, which requires the Shrine of Compassion. The Shrine of Compassion is located using the Orb of the Moons. 2 spaces to the north and 1 space over to the east. This time Santre will meditate, and the mantra of compassion is Mu. And unfortunately, he also is not ready to level up. And that's fine. What that means is, unfortunately, or fortunately, we need to go fight more monsters, accomplish more quests, complete more brave missions into the underworlds of Britannia. And that's what we will be doing next time. In our next episode, we're leveling up. I will see you then.